Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PowettPlay Podcast. It's me, Jordan Shannon. As always, I'm joined by Kieran Powell. How are you, Kai?
Uh, Morning after the night before. I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, I think you got to be a bit disappointed.
A bit disappointed is a nice way of putting it. I'm very disappointed. I think that, you know, scenarios played out differently. The West Indies really and truly should have won
Yeah,
that test match. So obviously frustrated there, but shit happens.
yeah, and you called that pitch. You really did. You hit the nail on the head with that wicket.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a pitch that's been prepared for a test match. So imagine what it's like for regional cricket, first class cricket, that sort of stuff.
Challenging.
And that's not just Barbados, that's throughout the Caribbean. And so we really have to have a look at how groundsmen are preparing pitches
Yeah,
for cricketers to go and perform. This isn't something that happens around the world. It's obviously, I mean, other places the ball spins or whatnot, but like you take your chances with the ball spinning, or even if it's bouncing and seaming, but it's consistent,
yeah,
then it's fine, it's fair. But if it's up and down. And for me, I guess the frustrating part of that is as well, um, the West Indies should know or should have known the nature of these pitches in the Caribbean. Like you can't necessarily be surprised. So as the game goes on, your strategies change, your tactics change. You start bowling, I guess, a bit straighter, setting the field straight, and knowing that the pitch is going to be up and down. So
yeah.
whether it is you're getting someone bowled, LBW, you're not looking for caught behinds as much, someone chipping up a ball to shot, extra cover, shot, mid wicket, but you set your field straighter with your extra
Yeah.
covers, your mid on, your mid offs, your shot catcher mid wickets, your square leg just in front of square, your point. You don't need three slips and a gully and that sort of stuff. You could probably have one on one and have them spread and bowl the ball at the stumps. If you're not getting as much variable bounce as you'd like, that's when you go cross seam.
Yeah,
Sometimes the ball hits the shine side and stays down. It hits the seam, it pops.
yeah.
If that's not working, you absolutely soak one side of the ball and you don't shine it. You just keep wetting it, wetting it, wetting it. Um, and you can go cross seam again with that and again exaggerate the nature of it keeping low. Or if
Right.
you don't want to go cross seam because you've absolutely soaked one side, that makes it heavy, so the ball starts tailing in whatever direction.
Yeah.
So those are just things that, on those types of pitches, I was expecting to see a strategy change, such as any of those options I mentioned just now, from the West Indies a bit earlier, because I think that going into the second innings, obviously, and the way the West Indies started, they had a chance to win the game, but allowing those three guys in the middle order to get three pairs of 60, then that was sort of it.
Well, ultimately, you've got to take your catches.
How many drop catches did the West Indies have throughout the game?
Well, they had six in the second. Was it six in the get? I can't
Six
remember.
in the first, I think.
Yeah, six in the first. Shamar Joseph had five, I think it was.
Yeah, and probably another two or
And then
three in the second.
yeah, because they had
Yeah.
they dropped
So
Travis head, didn't they? The second
I
sub.
mean, the drop catches alone, in my mind. So in the first innings, the West Indies should have, all things being equal and everything just steamrolling and going in your favor. I think Australia should have been bowled out for sort of 120,
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah,
which then gives the West Indies sort of a 70-run lead in that first innings instead of a 10-run lead. And then that again puts Australia to bat in the second innings a bit earlier under a lot more pressure. Completely different ball game.
yeah,
Again, second innings dropped key man in Travis Head.
yeah,
So I'd say the drop catchers could account for anywhere between 100 to 120, 130 runs that
yeah,
the West Indies ended up having to get extra in the game. So you look at a second innings, instead of seeing a target of 300, you're seeing a target of 165, 175
yeah,
on a pitch that would have been a lot fresher. It'd have been better to bat at the time that the West Indies would have batted because, as I said, like the best time to bat in Barbados is day two and well, not the end of day three clearly, but day three somewhat
Yeah,
before that up and down nature really starts to kick in. And I think that the groundsmen in the Caribbean have to get rid of this notion of trying to fix pitches with grass on them as well.
right.
That instruction coming down from the top, that absolutely needs to stop because grass on Caribbean pitches makes the pitches very slow, like very spongy. Because
Because
I
of the
guess
texture of the grass
the
there.
texture of the
Yeah,
grass is quite different. So it's very thick.
yeah.
So the ball hits the grass, absorbs all the pace, and then hits the hard surface, the clay. So it doesn't come through. I mean, obviously people like to see the pitches look pretty, but once the pitches are bare in the Caribbean, you still get good bounce, you get good carry. The ball still swings about. That's not going to affect anything. So I think that the grass on the pitch is not to the favor of Caribbean cricket. You know, it doesn't really do much apart
No.
from the aesthetic. And then obviously, as we saw with this pitch, it was quite patchy as well, quite sparse, the grass covering. So it wasn't even a consistent grass covering throughout. So there's no benefit of it in my opinion.
And then in terms of the bowling performance in that first innings, that was impressive. I was impressed with the bowling display to bowl. You know, it should have been less. I agree, but it was a good bowling performance. It's what you wanted to see from your quicks.
It's not even just in the first innings. I
Well,
think
yeah,
in
I
the
was just trying to,
entire
yeah,
match, the bowlers, even though Australia got 300 in the second innings, I think that the bowlers bowled really well.
yeah,
Um, Jayden Sears obviously got a five-wicket haul in the first innings, but the pick of the bowlers was clearly Shamar Joseph. Obviously, I would have mentioned before this liking to see him play a lot more red ball cricket, and you
yeah,
can hear Ian Bishop stressing on how much Jayden Sears prioritizes red ball cricket
yeah,
and has really honed his skills.
yeah.
Um, I think now he's got some, is it 82 or 83 test match wickets in 20, very low 20 games. And I think
Strike rate superb,
it's
isn't it?
it's amazing. And he's starting to enter that conversation of bowlers similar to the Rabadas and the Cummins, like the younger versions of them. I think more so a Rabada in the sense that he probably doesn't play as much Test cricket as other contemporary bowlers, but his skill set and his wicket taking ability, he's definitely in my opinion, the best young fast bowler in the world. And it's just a matter of opportunities and consistency in terms of match play for him because his wicket taking ability, as he's shown around the world,
Yeah,
his skill set is ever evolving, improving. He's a quick thinker, he's a fast learner.
yeah.
But having said that, the pick of the bowlers was definitely Shamar Joseph. Four wickets in the first innings, five drop catches. He seems
Oh,
to have something every time he comes and plays against his Australian team. Um, Very skillful. I still think obviously he's very undercooked. And
yeah.
that's amazing because you got nine wickets in the match and
And feeling the put.
you
Yeah,
you created I think probably 15 chances, 15, 16 chances in the game. Um, if he really sort of finds a way to dedicate himself and get match fitness with red ball cricket and play enough red ball cricket, what he could be when he has that ultimate level of consistency and control is absolutely scary because I think he's played some nine test matches now and he's got probably 37 wickets and probably another, by the looks of it, probably another 15 to 20 missed chances. So
yeah,
he's absolutely off the races. He's got four, five-wicket hauls in Test cricket in nine matches. Could have been five or six. So absolute superstar in the making. And obviously from a West Indian standpoint, from a West Indies cricket team standpoint, it's really good because I think that partnership between him and Seals, that hunger to get wickets. The consistency and the rate at which they get wickets, it's settling one side of the game for the West Indies. So I'm very impressed with both of those guys.
yeah. And it's definitely great to see that partnership. People always talk about those fast bowling partnerships, and that's something that we'd love to see over the next few years develop into a real, partnership to be threatened. A really threatening partnership to be. And yeah, I thought that, like I said, the ball really, really well. From a batting perspective, what was your thoughts going into the first innings?
Well, obviously, West Indies got off to a bad start in both innings. I think it was a Roston and Shea partnership in the first innings that sort of got West Indies up
Yeah.
to getting past that lead. Obviously, Alzari contributed to the end, but um, the Australian bowling attack, as we mentioned before the start of the game,
So,
is
so
best bowling attack in the world. I mean, you've got probably your most consistent, most accurate bowler who, in my opinion anyway, in Josh Hazelwood, who's going to be the last of the four main bowlers to get to 300 test wickets. Now you're playing against a team that
it's
all four
ridiculous
of
that.
their main bowlers have over 300 test wickets. That's the first
In,
time in the history of test cricket that that would have happened, that you've got four guys all playing at the same time in excess of 300 test wickets. So you understand straight away the quality, the consistency of what you're facing there. And I think that it was always going to be a daunting task. And I think that if the West Indies, I mean, I think Grenada will be a better pitch.
right, okay.
It's normally a flatter pitch. It's normally a good place for batting. Lots of moisture in the morning, but it generally dries out as the day goes on and becomes really good. But I think that if the West Indies were to have a chance, let's say in this match per se, you needed one of those top order batters to get in and get you sort of a 40 or 50 sort of 60, 70 balls, at a good
Yeah,
pace, so that you can put some pressure back onto the Australian bowling attack, because knowing the nature of the pitch, um, there was always going to be a ball with your name on it as a batting group, but no one in the top order was really able to get in and stay in. And once that doesn't happen, you're exposing the middle order to the tail, um, to some very skillful, high quality bowlers with still a new ball in hand.
yeah.
And I saw something where somebody said the batting in the match was like a coin. It was head and then all tail. So it was just it
Brilliant
was
analogy.
it was Travis Head, and then everyone else seemed to be tail enders. So that was just a little funny comment that I saw. But no, it's. I mean, Travis Head is the only player that seemed to, I guess, have a grip on the pitch in both innings, and obviously for scoring two half centuries, one man of the match, and that tells you how difficult the task batting was on that pitch.
Yeah. The one thing I thought that Shea and Roston did very well, and there's no bias here with that, is I thought they left the ball very well in that partnership that they had. And that's where the dismissals earlier on probably didn't know maybe when to leave the ball and when to play in it, which obviously brought on, the edges. It was just disappointing at that momentum with the issues with the third umpire. And obviously I want to ask, go into that question really now in terms of what did you think of those decisions really?
Well, I mean, I've seen a few quotes from Sammy saying that he's had a few issues with this third umpire from since the England series, the series here. And no, this has trickled over into this Australian series. I mean, I've seen more comments as well where people are, I guess, sort of speculating racism or whatever the case is. No, I don't like to go that far unless I'm given concrete evidence. But what I
Yes.
would say is, from a smaller cricketing nation standpoint, and this isn't even just the West Indies, it's anyone playing at any of the smaller nations playing against the bigger teams. There always seems to be nepotism in the calls and how the decisions are handed out. So you generally find that, and you go and look back, you don't even have to go far. Just look at the most recent series that have been played. You look at the umpires' calls, it generally goes in favor of the bigger team, where, in my opinion, a player, and if you're playing against a bigger team and it's a 50-50 shot, a player should be given out in favor of the smaller team, because you are the smaller team,
Yeah.
we pretty much know it's not an even system anyway. So if
Yeah.
you've got the advantage of technology and reviewals and all these things, then it should be in favor of the smaller team, because if you're not going to do a 50-50 balance, you can't skew it towards the team that is more likely or favored to win.
Yeah.
Having said that, there needs to be a clearer understanding. There needs to be more clarity of how these decisions are supposed to be handed down, so
Yeah.
that the public has a clear understanding of, okay, if this happens, this is what we are going to
Yeah.
do. Um, you see a situation where, having played cricket, Shea, in my opinion, clearly caught that ball. But sometimes as a player, you can catch a ball and not know, because obviously when you're
Yeah, it's
catching a
in that.
ball in that
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
it's that situation where your head's turning
Yeah.
and
Exactly. You're not. Yeah.
yeah, the ball's hit your fingertips and rolled up onto
Yeah.
your palm, as opposed to Alex Carey that wasn't in control of that ball, and you could see like he was,
Yeah.
grasped that, but he had control of it, but he's grasped it and then
Yeah.
picked it up.
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of things about Snicker and all these things as well. And that's what I'm saying, like the clarity, like there needs to be complete understanding and parity across the board
Yeah.
in decision making, because then this is where you find people get fed up and upset with technology. Because if this were a situation where the on-field umpires made those mistakes, I think it'd have been a lot more palatable for people to stomach. But if this is decisions coming from the third umpire that's got all the
Technology.
access to technology, replays, unlimited amount of time
Yeah.
to make a decision, and you're making shit decisions like that, like it's very frustrating from not just a player's standpoint, but from a viewer's standpoint as well. Like
100%. Yeah. The momentum
yeah,
of the game changes with that.
yeah, the
Yeah.
momentum of the game changes, and it completely messes with the outcome of the game, but it also messes with the motivation from a player standpoint, because like
Frustration.
this is, you're frustrated. This is clearly out. Like what are we doing?
Yeah.
You've got all the time and technology in your favor. Like what are we doing?
Yeah. And that's when you avoid those comments from Sammy. And ultimately the ICC will probably need to get, to change the third umpire going into the next game, not because of Sammy's comments, but ultimately just to change the perception of him saying, obviously we've had issues with him before in the past, sort of thing. But like you said, it's the clarity aspect, and it's a shame that watching that. It was a shame because it was I really enjoyed watching that test match. It was a very, very good ebb and flow, and the constant, it consistently changed in terms of who's. Yes, I appreciate Australia felt as though they were always in control of the game a bit more, but when the partnership with Shea and Roston, I thought they were batting very well, and I thought that they were going nicely. It did change the momentum of the game, and that was obviously the frustrating aspect.
And you look at it, whereas Australia had to get 20 wickets, the West Indies probably created 32 to 35 chances to get 20 wickets.
Yeah,
So if you're having, and mind you, most of this, in my opinion, is the West Indies' fault in terms of the drop catches and
yes,
stuff, because then that
100%.
completely changes the complexion of the game. But if you're having drop catches and then bad umpiring decisions as well, you really compound yourself to being in quite a difficult situation where there's not much scope of you potentially winning a game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I'll speak about momentum as well because I was really disappointed with John Campbell's dismissal. I felt that it was just completely not necessary. And I think that again, it was a case of I thought him and Katie Carty at the time were, the momentum was in West Indies' favour. It just wasn't necessary.
I mean, I saw him doing that in regional cricket and stuff this season. I found it interesting. I saw him sweep the first ball of a game in in a match this season. Um, I mean, that's not the way I would go about things. Especially just coming back into the team. Now, if that's the role, because I mean, the coach likes to talk about roles and people to fit roles.
Yeah,
As I said, we need to have clarity and
yeah,
understanding about what
yeah,
is required of these roles, so that the public know that this is how a player is going to play. Because if that's the role he's been given, then no problem.
yeah.
But
Well, look,
it's definitely not the way I would go, and it's not the way I would suggest that he goes about it as well. Because as much as you can be given a role, if he gets out sweeping another time, I can tell you what Caribbean people and the Caribbean public are like. It's not going to be pretty.
No, no, and you could tell with that reaction. And again, from a momentum perspective, I thought him and Katie Carter were going quite nicely. You've got someone who's played 20 odd tests versus obviously Casey's, I think it was his sixth test at the time. It just felt as though, from a responsibility perspective, it just didn't. I don't know. I'd be after a lot more from my opener at that perspective, given what we spoke about as well, with the potential of a new opener joining him as well.
Yep. So, as I said, it all comes down to clarity, not only from a player standpoint in terms of what your role is, but from a public standpoint. This is how we are looking to play, and this is what we want
Yeah.
one of our openers to do. And if that's the case, then so be it.
Someone who's feeling it slip a long time, what did you, what would you be looking to do now going into that second test? As someone, would you look to take a lot of catches? How would you look to, I don't know, move forward thinking from a confidence perspective? I need to, I'm at first, or Rosson's going to be at first, and you've got second and third. You're going to be doing one of the two there. What would you be looking to do in between now and the second test from a slip catching perspective?
To me, it looked like guys that um they seemed to be they were getting rushed.
I thought,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, it felt as though like the ball was getting to them a lot quicker than they were expecting it to get to them.
yeah,
Um, Darren Sammy, if you can remember anything about Darren Sammy as a test cricketer, was a very good catcher, very good slip catcher, and he will be absolutely fuming because
you could
he's
tell.
the man that, yeah, he's someone that takes serious pride in not just slip catching, but in fielding
Yeah,
on a whole. And so, things like that because I know for a fact that the fielding staff, Ryan Griffith, etc., work very hard with these guys, do a lot of nicks and stuff. But I think that they probably need to practice a bit closer than where they will stand in the game because that helps to sharpen up your reaction time.
right, okay.
So you need to be a bit closer and react and catch quicker so that in the game, when you're standing in your normal position, you have a bit more time. I felt as though they were a bit tight as well. In the carding, I felt as though that they could have spaced probably maybe half a step away from each other as well, a bit
Right,
more,
okay.
to cover some more ground. But
Right.
it generally just looked like to me that they were a bit I wouldn't say they were a bit close because of the nature of the pitch. The Knicks weren't gonna carry too far, but it just looked like they were getting rushed.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I wanted to get your take on that really, because it I'm a firm. I don't think any catch at slips easy.
Mm,
That's my take on it. I think sometimes, yeah, you get easier ones, don't get me wrong, but
mm.
I think they are quite hard. But it's just from a take of understanding, obviously, what would you do between that? Would you go and look to take a lot of balls, or would you look just to work on positioning? I don't know. Just to get your opinion on that. But I think it was, overall, looking at this first test, I think, it was a lot of positives. A lot of, people have been very negative in terms of speaking, obviously not on, not from our perspective, because we spoke about it quite openly, but a lot of negatives about, what could happen, 3-0 drought, all that sort of conversation, especially. But I thought there's a lot of positives there, and I thought there's some real good team unity as well, which, you can pick up a lot of that from Australia. Australia are such a tight unit. And I think you can pick up a lot of that from playing against them, how they are as a team.
Yeah, I think that no, 100%. There are a lot of positives there. I mean, it's the first test under a new coach, under a
Yeah.
new captain. I think that Roston handled himself pretty well. I think he could have used himself and Warwick kind of bit more in that second innings, and
Yes.
sort of run the fast bowlers from their preferred end with a spinner from the other end to
Yeah.
give the other fast bowlers a break as opposed to bringing them back and bringing them back and bringing them back so quickly. So that they'd have been a lot more fresh, more potent. But I think in the first innings, for example, he identified areas and struck, for example, Justin Graves got Travis head out, then he brought Shamar Joseph right back,
Yeah.
continue to build that pressure and get some more breakthroughs as well.
Yeah.
Um, I think, obviously there are things that will come with captaincy that he'll learn over the
100%. Yeah.
course
Yeah.
over the course of time. Obviously it's not something he's done. You look at the first innings where Alzari sort of went past the bat of Usman Khawaja a few times, and I was like, oh, you need to get a third
Another
slip in.
flipping. Yeah.
He edged the ball through the third time, and then you had a third slip in the over after where that opportunity is already gone, you know. So it's just a few things that he'll learn over time. Obviously, hasn't played red ball cricket for some time as well, so you have to reacquaint yourself with these situations and these scenarios. But I think, obviously Warwican didn't really have much of a part to play, nor did Nathan Lyon in this match. But I think that Warwican bowled really well when he did bowl.
I thought it was really
He
tight.
created, yeah, he created a bit of a battle with tall guy. What's his name?
Oh, Webster.
Bo Webster. Yep. Because of the pace that he bowls and the consistency, forcing him to try and hit the ball down the ground.
Yeah.
Good field setting. So I think that he'll come into it probably a bit more in Grenada. But as I said, positive signs for me, the bowling attack is settled. Very good unit, and it's just for the batting to find a way to collectively come together. Because as you saw, Australia obviously failed in the first innings as well, but they were able to find a way, and I guess that's the difference between the West Indies and Australia. Australia obviously find a way to adjust based on conditions, based on the needs, the
Yeah.
requirements, etc., and get themselves to a position where they can always potentially win. So it's just for the West Indies to find a way collectively as a batting unit, 1 to 11, to get to a score in both innings that they think that could give them a chance to compete in Test matches.
Yeah, definitely, definitely, and I think like yeah, well, we're going to look into a separate episode on the preview, aren't we, for the
Yeah,
second test? So we'll debrief looking at that, and obviously we'll look forward to your take and playing there, and I'm sure you'll give us some decent insight on that. But just to finish, look, people, what did you think of that first test? What was your takeaways from that? What did you think, the positives and negatives, and what would you like to see going into that second test? Please let us know. Keep liking, keep subscribing. We do really appreciate that. And Karen will come back to any questions that you have regarding any, in terms of the performances or going into the second test. Give us a shout and Karen will get back to you. But we do appreciate everything. So yeah, keep liking, keep subscribing, and thank you very much for joining us on the PowettPlay Podcast.
subscribe.
Cheers, guys.